In the earlier section, he refers to Gayatri Spivak and her question, her essay, "Can the Subaltern Speak?" But in this part, he says he does not want to pursue here Spivak's line of inquiry. He does not want to continue with the question whether the subaltern can speak or not. He wants to return to the foundational movement of subaltern studies. He wants to go back to the beginning of subaltern studies, the foundational movement of subaltern studies, and look at Guha's book, Elementary Aspects. So we have already referred to the references. So he refers to Guha's book of 1983, Elementary Aspect of Peasant Insurgency in Colonial India, which was published by Oxford University Press, New Delhi. So he refers to that. And he wants to continue his discussion with this book, Elementary Aspects, for the way it posed the question of the subject of history. He does not want to continue with Spivak's question, rather, he wants to pursue, understand the things with a reference to Guha's book, because it, posed the question of the subject of history. It started talking about the subject of history. Rather, the theme continues in this section. The section does not end, rather, the sub theme that he is talking about it continues here as well. Obviously, Guha's expectation, born of the 1970s discussion of peasant rebellions, so we refer to the rebellions in China in the context of Vietnam, okay, and the inspiration that Indian rebellions took from these particular rebellions. And he refers to the popular insurgencies of the 19th century against the British government, pre-colonial India, or we can say colonial India rather, instead of calling it pre-colonial. I'm sorry for that. Pre means before. He refers to the colonial India and insurgencies. Insurgencies, you might be knowing about the insurgency of 1857, 1857 चा उठाव, that's what we call it in Marathi. So he is going back to that insurgency, or such kind of insurgencies of the 19th century. And these particular insurgencies are the movements or peasant rebellions of the 1970s could be seen as presaging. Presaging means something, which is a sign of the foresight of the future event, or anticipating. Means, you might be knowing something about William Shakespeare's play, in which he foreshadows the event or the action of some character, foreshadows the coming events. When something is going to happen, we can guess. So these particular peasant rebellions or the insurgencies of the 19th century could be seen as such kind of foreshadows or anticipations of a more political popular struggle for the wholesale transformation of the Indian social structure. Means those events, those particular movements could be seen as the anticipation, means the forthcoming things. I hope you understand, being a student of literature, I refer to William Shakespeare's plays and even the concept in literary criticism, or the term foreshadowing. So by that we means the indication of something which is going to happen in future. So these particular rebellions or insurgencies could be seen as anticipations of the forthcoming kind of struggles for the wholesale transformation of the Indian social structure. Now, what happened recently through the farm bill, I mean, the movement against the farm bill, could be seen as one of the examples. But I'm not referring to this. This wasn't that much transforming. Yes, earlier many of this such kind of events are taking place. So he's referring to the political popular struggle for the wholesale transformation of the Indian social structure in the direction of socialist equality will not seem valid today to many. Means whatever happened during those days in the 70s and later through the political movements for transformation. I refer to the movements, Chipko Andolan, Narmada Bachao, etc. were certain movements that we had listed down in the earlier lectures. So those movements may not look valid today, suitable today to many of us. But he thinks that with his careful study, I do not think that he says, I means Divya Chakrabarty does not think that with his careful study of the methods by which crowds mobilized themselves in the cities and countryside of the 19th century India. Okay, means one cannot see the methods. Means although we may not believe. Means the way, the methods used by these crowds, and they cause the kind of mobility. They mobilized, they moved, is they went in the cities and countryside of the 19th century India. You can imagine in those days when there was no WhatsApp, no Facebook, no Insta, no television channels, even no radio. In that scenario, we can imagine the way, the methods, you know, they adopted for this mobilization. So Guha gave us a most interesting and creative genealogy of crowd politics. Now, in India, this crowd politics makes a big difference. You might be knowing something about Anna Hazare's movement. What happened when he, just went on for the Dharna Andolan in Delhi at Jantar Mandir, and afterwards the entire political scenario changed. And how Arvind Kejriwal took the advantage of the situation, and now he has been the chief minister of Delhi for the second term. So you know it very well. So Guha gives a most interesting and creative genealogy. Genealogy means you might know in genealogy of a family, how the origin can be stressed. The genealogy of the origin of the crowd politics in India. He gives in this particular book as it actually exists in India today. So that is the root of, that is the genealogy of the crowd politics. And he gives this particular account in his book. Even today we have that crowd politics. Okay. So at bottom, Guha asked a question that had been asked in the English context by someone like E.P. Thompson. Now you know E.P. Thompson very well. So Guha's work can be equated with the making of the English working class of E.P. Thompson. E.P. Thompson too had raised similar kind of questions. What role did the people of England play in shaping the English institutions of democracy? That was the question which he asked in his books, The Making of the English Working Class. And another book, Whigs and Hunters, is another book by E.P. Thompson that he's referring to here. So you can equate subaltern studies with British cultural studies. For example, that was an animating question in both these particular books written by E.P. Thompson. Guha's question was similar, he says. He compares the question raised by E.P. Thompson. What was the question? What role did the people of England play in shaping the English institutions of democracy? Now, what was Guha's question? Let's compare it. How did popular politics develop and shape the democracy that India became after independence? So the role of popular politics. Now, popular politics means the politics of people. How crowd came together Even Gandhi, when we talk about Gandhian movements, that is a kind of popular politics, a crowd politics. His Chaleja movement or any its Dandi Yatra, all these are the popular examples of popular politics. So, how did popular politics develop and shape the democracy that India became after independence? Today, whatever democracy we are, this democracy is the result of the popular politics, the crowd politics. So we can compare and contrast this question with that of E.P. Thompson's question. Okay. But Guha's approach to answering this question and Deepak Chakrabarty, Deepeshwari would say his answer itself often implicit in the pages of elementary aspects. His answers, his approach can clearly be seen in the book, in the elementary aspects of the peasant insurgencies. Okay, he's referring to elementary aspects of peasant insurgency in colonial India. And his answer and his approach could be seen on every page of this particular book. And they were different from what leftist Anglo historians had divined. The answers given by Guha were different from the leftist Anglo historians. Anglo means English historians, but they were leftist. Whether it was Edward Thompson could be seen as the leftist, even know it very well. Even Raymond Williams and Richard Hoggart, they were leftist Anglo historians and people in were scholars in cultural studies. Whether it was Edward Thompson or E.P. Thompson, he means, or George Jude, their analysis of writers and crowds went in the direction of humanizing the crowd by looking for individual faces. Okay, means the answer given by Guha is different from these particular people, but when we refer to Edward Thompson or George Jude, their analysis of the people who are involved in the riots. Riots means danga, pasadi, mind going. It's causing kind of disorderly or disorderly situation and crowds. They analyze the writers, the people involved in the riots and crowds, and this analysis was in the direction of humanizing. They just humanized the crowd. Okay, they thought it means they were in favor of this because they were the leftists. And by looking for individual faces, they were trying to look for the individual faces in the crowd. And among these two, Rude is of course, famous for his innovations in this regard. Well, we shall discuss about this in the next part of my lecture. We shall stop for this at this point now.